Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can't believe it's already the end of January, whereas 2026 gone already. It's going so fast. But with me today, we have Wendy G. She is our intermodal manager here at the Evans corporate office. And this webinar is set up specifically to talk about billing for specialty equipment. So hopefully we all learned some stuff here. This was something for me personally when I was talking with Wendy. I was like, wow, there's so many things that are eye-opening here. So talking about chassis, the different keywords to use when billing your chassis, different rates and why they apply. So she's going to go ahead and break all that down for us here. If you have questions, there's that raise hand icon. By all means, feel free to click on it. I will give you access to unmute yourself, or if you want to type up a question in the chat, I will monitor those questions along with Wendy there. But without further ado, I'll turn it over to Wendy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is actually Wendy Sparing, but most people call me Wendy G. I was not married when I started here at Evans, and it just seemed simpler to keep it that way because that's how everybody knew me. So I am the intermodal manager. I oversee the equipment console, the chassis department, M&R, and the tolls for pool usage. So quite a bunch of different little things, but pretty much anything that's chassis related, I'm your go-to resource. Today we're going to talk about how to use different chassis keywords. Different keywords function different ways in different states. So I want you guys to have a little bit better understanding of how your keywords work, in what situations you should be using them to bill, and then the goal of all of this is to help you reduce those agent deductions that hit your settlements. We're going to focus on the different keywords that are available to use for billing chassis charges, how those keywords function in the agent portal, and how the equipment console matches those loads to the agent portal to resolve the charges when we're invoiced by the chassis providers. As an agent, you should know your keywords and how they settle, at what percentages, what if anything is held at corporate, if it's excluded from the brokerage split, all those different kinds of things. And if you don't have a clear understanding of that, I really encourage you to reach out to agent onboarding, and they can pull that information for you based on your contract that you signed. They can pull those reports and let you know what your what your keywords are and at what rates they pay for you. For the purposes of chassis charges, there are some ones that are pretty universal from state to state, and that there are some that are state specific. Primarily, we have some specialty rules for Boston, for the state of South Carolina, and for the state of Virginia. But the rest of the country pretty much operates the same way. The most common keyword that we use, if you'll refer to the handout here, we call this a one-pager, is daily chassis charge. This keyword should be used for all daily pool equipment. There really shouldn't be any exception to this. All daily usage should be billed by days and not by dollars. So if you had it out for 4 days, you should be billing for 4 days. The benefits of using this keyword are it's the fastest way for the agents to receive their commission. So if you've created a pro in the agent portal and you've billed your customer for 4 days of chassis charges and you close the pro, the amount of money that should be paid to you based on your settlement and the rate that that keyword keeps here is automatically paid out to you on the next settlement. We don't hold that settlement portion or the commission portion of that pay until we're billed for it. You're given that money right away, and then we hold the DCC rate here at the corporate office until we're then invoiced by the chassis provider. So how it functions is it keeps the DCC rate here per day to cover those rentals without deductions or emails. In a perfect world, if you are the outgating trucker and you are using the correct SCAC code, if you were invoiced for 4 days and you billed for 4 days, you'll never even see the move in the equipment console. It will automatically go to the billed section, and you would have to actually click a couple of different buttons to be able to review that. But We don't need you to do anything with it because you billed it and you were charged for it appropriately. If there are not enough days billed using the DCC keyword on your freight bill, and because it took an extra day to get it in gated or it wasn't a live unload, whatever the circumstances are, having a pro number from the equipment console with 4 days on it, say you need 6 days in total, we just would bill those 2 additional days on what we call an accessorial bill. Terminal owned chassis is the next most common keyword, and this is used for your privately owned or leased equipment. And it should be the only time you're using terminal owned chassis is for your privately owned or leased equipment. If you are using pool equipment, you should be using keywords that are pool related, not privately owned equipment related. Another common one is the try keyword. The try keyword does have some exceptions in the state of South Carolina and Virginia. They have pool tries, so it functions in those states kind of like the DCC keyword. But in the rest of the country, try is used for billing triaxles and sometimes other specialty equipment, but mostly for triaxles. CHAB, or chassis charge carrier, is used for brokered moves. CHAC, which is chassis charge special in the drop-down box, is used typically in moves where the funds need to be kept here at corporate. This is used most commonly with gensets. DCCS is just chassis charge special, and this is used for Virginia agents specifically to keep the amount of money here for some of the specialty pool equipment there that they offer. Say 45 foot slider and a 40-foot triaxle is available through the pool, and the DCCS keyword is set up to keep the right amount of money here at corporate to function like the DCC keyword for that type of specialty equipment. I think another great thing to talk about is how the equipment console functions. So the equipment console, when we get a new invoice and we upload it into the console, the spreadsheet that comes from the chassis provider has that equipment listed, the dates listed, the associated containers listed. It's important to remember it's a chassis bill. So when you ask me a question like, was I billed for charges, and you list a container number and not a chassis number, you're asking me to answer a question with only a third of the information. Not every chassis provider provides the outgating container. If you had to get the chassis bare at point A and go to point B to load the container, there would not necessarily be an associated container. So if you're asking if we were charged for chassis charges, please always remember to add the chassis number to your request, not just the container number. In the equipment console, when we upload those spreadsheets, it looks for 4 very specific pieces of information. It's looking for an exact match in the agent portal on chassis, on container, on SCAC code, and on the number of DCC days billed. So if you're using pool equipment and you're not billing using DCC, you've already created more work for yourself. One, it'll be additional work for deductions that you're going to be looking at going, why was I deducted, and checking out those settlements. And 2, you're going to have to go into the equipment console because it's not going to match to the appropriate load because it did not find DCC days billed. Okay, so in the agent portal, it's very important to make sure that you always have your container number, which is pretty much always there because that's what you're getting paid to move. The chassis that container sat on, whether it was leased or pool equipment, if you don't have the chassis number in it and I'm looking for a chassis bill, it's never going to find it because there's never a chassis number listed. Using the correct keyword to bill for your chassis days, and then any other notes that are specific down in the notes box that may help us in connecting your agent portal load to the charges that received in the equipment console. So let's talk a little bit about brokered moves. I'm not a fan, going to be honest. They're just very difficult to follow around. But if you are the broker and you're billing an outside carrier or a V code, the brokered agent should not let anyone outgate equipment under their SCAC code. You run the risk of being charged for accidents, loss of the claim on the freight, a claim on the missing equipment. If your SCAC outgated it, you're responsible even if your truck wasn't the one driving it. So brokers that are using outside carriers should never let an outside carrier use your SCAC code. The UI states outgating truckers are responsible for the equipment until it's returned to a valid start-stop location. If the equipment goes missing or is involved in an accident as the outgating trucker, you would be held responsible for the subsequent charges accrued as a result. You should bill your customer using CHAB keyword and pay the V code on the same line in the agent portal, the funds that you agreed upon for them to move the load, because they're the ones that should be receiving the chassis charges under their own SCAC code and authority. If you're brokering the move to other agents within the Evans network, you would also use the CHAB keyword. These moves should not be billed by the broker using the DCC keyword. They should bill those charges to their customer using CHAB and then pay it on the same line item to the agency code that is doing the move for them. The carrier, or the one doing the move for them, also must create a pro. In that pro, they would be billing Evans, or we call it the EVAPOPA code. So you're billing Evans, and you want to make sure that then on that load, you're using the DCC keyword. If the broker paid the carrier the money to move the chassis because it's the carrier SCAC code that's responsible, then the carrier needs to be the one that has a pro with DCC charges on it. Remember, the equipment console is looking for an exact match on chassis, on container, DCC days billed, and SCAC code. If one of those four things is missing, it's going to confuse the system, and it's going to bring in that brokered load and say, what's up with this one? And the broker is going to say, I paid that money to this one. And it just becomes a big circle and a delay in billing that can sometimes result in an agent deduction because the customer refuses the bill. If the broker bills 4 days, but the carrier had it out for 5 days, the carrier cannot say bill customer, because the carrier's customer is Evans, and we're not going to bill Evans. We would need the carrier to go back to the broker and say, Mr. Broker, I need 1 more day of billing to the customer. And then the broker would need to see if that is possible. Otherwise, that extra day may become an agent deduction or a driver deduction on the carrier, not the broker. Does that hopefully all make sense? And if you have questions on that, type them in the box and we'll circle back. Okay. One of the other things I wanted to touch upon briefly too was gensets. Gensets should be billed using the CHAC, or chassis charge special, in the drop-down box. Gensets are a little bit different as per rate per day, because genset costs always include the gate fees, fueling fees, and the fuel costs themselves. We recommend that for gensets you bill probably about $100 a day, because that should cover all of those fees plus the actual genset rental. Using the CHAC keyword, that would keep the funds here at corporate until the bill is received, and then we would be able to pay that bill without having to deduct the agent for sometimes some expensive costs. So that's kind of the basics in billing. Some things that you should always remember is to bill by days, not by dollars. So I'm going to pull up an image here of the equipment the agent portal here quickly. Let me get that in there. And I'm not going to go through the entire console training. I just want to, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I want the agent portal. We do offer console training, and I want to make sure that agents that are interested in console training, we do offer one-on-one training. Through the training department, you can schedule that. Trying to find an agent code that it'll let me in. You can schedule that. It takes 30 to 45 minutes and it's done virtually through Microsoft Teams, and we will look at your specific equipment console and we'll answer any questions you have and show you how to manipulate the equipment console. I promise you, if you have not had this training yet, it will save you time, it will save you money, and it's definitely worth the investment of having whoever is responsible for your equipment console sign up for the training. And again, you can do that through training. So we were talking a lot about adding charges. So adding your container, adding your chassis, notes. If you're billing DCC, it should be on this line item. If you are paying DCC to someone else, it would be on the same line item. If you're paying DCC here and then you're paying it to the V code or to another agency on a different line item, it's going to result in an agent deduction. When we talk about adding miscellaneous charges, it's not going to let me do it, but the adding miscellaneous charges, the CHAB, the CHAC, terminal owned chassis, all of those would be done under this tab. If you are looking for access to a keyword that does not appear in your drop-down box, you want to email the chassis team at evansdelivery.com, make a request, we'll put in a tech deck ticket. They'll ask me to approve whether or not you should have access to it based on state. What rate per day should it be held at, or percentage, or whatever that is. So I would have to approve it, and then we would send that off to Tech Deck Ticket, and they would add that to your miscellaneous charge drop-down box. If there is something in the miscellaneous charge drop-down box like CHAB that you're then paying to your broker, you want to do it on the same line item as it comes over into the contractor pay section over here. If you put it somewhere else, it may cause an agent deduction. Some other issues that can cause some agent deductions unnecessarily or double billing unnecessary is if you've closed your pro and then you find out you need to add additional chassis charges or just chassis charges at all, and you contact settlements or collections and say, "Hi, collections department, could you please add 3 days of chassis charges to this freight bill?" Because we've already uploaded it into the equipment console, our system is never going to connect with collections to show that those 3 days were added to the freight bill. It is the agent's responsibility to let us know that that was added. We have thousands and thousands of line items every day that we go through, and it would be impossible for us to check every single line item to see if by chance additional days were added to the freight bill. So if you're looking in the equipment console and you think to yourself, I think I billed that out. If the pro was not closed at the time that we uploaded it, we would not know that there were any days billed using any of the specialty keywords or DCC. If you added those chassis charges after the fact, we would not know that those chassis charges were there. So if you're looking in the equipment console and you tell me to bill the customer, but you already added those charges on the freight bill, it could result in double billing. So that's something that you want to be aware of. So that's, again, that's 2 different ways that we could not see charges. If the pro is not closed when we upload, it will not pull those charges into the system. It will not find or recognize the pro number. If the pro is closed, but you've added freight charges for DCC through collections or settlements, we will not see that, and it will not pull them into the equipment console. It's important to remember that anything that keeps a amount per day here at corporate has to be billed by day, not by dollars. If you are telling me that you billed 3 days at $30.50 to your customer, that's $90.50. That's 3 days. It's going to keep, and that's just a state that I looked up earlier today that I was talking to somebody about. I don't even know what state it is. So somebody's DCC keyword keeps $30.50 here a day. So if that's $90 or $91.50 that was billed out to the customer, you can't just bill 1 day at $91.50. It has to be 3 days at $30.50 to get to the $91.50. Otherwise, it'll cause a deduction because we bill by days, not by dollars. The equipment console talks to the agent portal by days, not by dollars. Understand that anything that you bill over your DCC keyword rate is already paid out to you on settlement. So if you see that you billed out 120 and you didn't have enough days, but you were invoiced for 110, you can't just mark it billed, because anything over your DCC rate was already paid out to you on commission. That total amount of money is not here. So we want to make sure that you understand that it's by days, not by dollars. Using other keywords, most commonly you're going to use terminal owned chassis for the privately owned leased, DCC for your pool equipment, and then try for anything that's specialty. If you have a question about what you should be using that you're not clear on, please reach out and we will be happy to go over that with you. Understand that your DCC amount per day, whatever you're contracted to, is the minimum that you can charge your customer per day. Otherwise, you will be agent deducted the difference. We recently had a case where an agent made a deal to charge a customer $25 a day, but their DCC rate, let's call it $30.50. So for every day that they billed $25, they were deducted $5.50. If you choose to make that kind of an agreement when you are giving a rate con to a customer, then you as the agent are responsible for making up that difference. If this is something like a national account or whatever that you want help with trying to get this new lane of business, you really want to make sure that you're reaching out to customer solutions and Ryan Bates' team, and they'll make the determination as to whether or not this needs to be some kind of contract negotiation that they then will authorize you to choose to charge below the daily rate. But otherwise, you will be deducted the difference. Customers that have direct billing agreements. If you are quoting some new business and the customer says to you that they have a direct billing agreement and they should never receive chassis charges, I know we've all heard that 800 times. Do not believe them. Protect yourself. I can't tell you the number of times that a customer has given bad information to an agent, and this has cost the agent and Evans a lot of money. Always verify and place a statement in your rate cons that protects you in the event that they did not disclose the correct information. On the front end, please reach out to the chassis team and ask us, ask the group email to verify the individual chassis providers that this customer in that location is saying that they have a direct billing agreement with. Most famously, I'm going to use the famous DCLI and MSC. Med Shipping has not had a blanket agreement with DCLI in 25 years. Okay, it's not quite that long, but it's been a long time. So I can't tell you how many times that a customer or an agent will come back and say, well, that's Med Shipping, DCLI, we should never get a chassis charge for that. It's for DCLI. They do have some direct billing agreements, but those are customer based, not just because it's Med Shipping on a DCLI chassis. So you want to make sure that you vet what these customers are telling you. We are happy to reach out to the chassis providers on the front end and get that clarification. And when in doubt, follow your steamship line rules. As you know, ONE has to be on a FlexiVan. MSC and Maersk should probably be on a DCLI. CMA, Hapag, I believe, and Maersk can go on a track. But if you're not following those steamship line rules, it may result in agent deductions. And the purpose of this call is to make sure that everyone knows that moving forward and they can help reduce those costs out of pocket. That is really all I have. I have not been able to see the chat box because I have notes up all over my screen. So I'm going to open that up now and see if there's any questions, or you can raise your hand and I will be happy to answer anything that I can.
Appreciate it, Wendy. And just a couple of things I wanted to reiterate that Wendy mentioned. Agencies in different locations. I'm just making this up, but maybe I haven't.
I know what you're trying to say. So DCC rates vary by state.
I didn't realize that I muted myself.
Yeah.
I hit
So
my keyboard, so yeah, go ahead,
yes.
Wendy. I'll let you take it.
So a DCC rate for the tri-state area versus the DCC rate for Texas, the chassis providers charge very different rates per region. So Texas is way more expensive than like Florida or South Carolina. So when we set your DCC rate by state, we are looking at all of the published rates for the chassis providers when they notify us of a rate increase in that area. We then look at the usage for that area and determine what percentage might be track, what percentage might be DCLI, what percentage is NACPAC. We prorate those rates, and then we come to a combined price per day based on that algorithm, and that is the DCC rate per day. But it also factors in the fact that there are some admin costs on the Evans side, my fabulous salary, insurance, um, billing, collections, all those things that go into the admin fees are the difference, which is usually a very small percentage on top of the DCC rate that is figured out.
Appreciate that, Wendy. The only other thing before I accidentally muted myself that I just wanted to reiterate, and Wendy brought this up again earlier, it's really important that the hauling carrier is the one that's outgating the equipment. We've unfortunately seen many cases where the broker thinks they're doing the carrier a favor and lets the hauling carrier outgate under their SCAT code. And again, we won't say who exactly, obviously, but we've seen major deductions that are very unfortunate for agents when equipment goes missing, or a carrier says they dropped it at a location and that location doesn't accept the return chassis. So please make sure that if you are the broker in any case, that the hauling carrier is using their own SCAT code to pull that equipment. So just wanted to reiterate it again. I see there's now some questions coming in here, Wendy, so we can take a look in that box as well.
Okay, so Lisa, I see your question here regarding billing cycles. So every chassis provider is a little bit different, and the equipment console was designed to kind of meet them in the middle. Probably a little bit more leaning to track than DCLI, but it is what it is. So DCLI bills on ingate. So in 99.9% of the time when you're receiving a bill from DCLI, it's going to be for the full boat of the days, unless there's something that's really long dwelling that we're going to look at a little bit separately. But most of those times you're only going to see your DCC chassis charges for DCLI on one bill. Now, FlexiVan and Track both bill on outgate and then on a billing cycle. So for instance, you may see on a FlexiVan bill, you might see from the 27th to the 31st on one bill, and then the next month, 30 days later, I'm going to get another bill that might be from the 1st to the 3rd. So it's important when you guys are closing out your loads, I always recommend that you bill all the days on the freight bill if you can. When I pull that information into the equipment console, the first time I'm billed, there's going to be that excess of days. But when the second bill comes in, it should still pull that same load and mark it billed, because there's, again, should be an excess of days. So if, it was 3 days on the month of January and 4 days in the month of February, and you build a total of 7 days, both loads should come in and be marked billed. If you did not bill on the freight bill and you're looking to bill through the equipment console, which is perfectly fine, I recommend that you bill everything the first time. So if you know at the time you first see that load that, yes, it has ingated, but I didn't get the bill for the second half of that load, I would bill all of those days on my first run of the equipment console. So if I'm looking at the January bill for 3 days, but I know it was out for 7, I would bill all 7 on the one that's only invoiced me for 3. And then when the equipment console loads for the second bill in February, it should come in and be marked billed in a perfect world. As you know, it's only as good as the algorithms it uses. There is a certain amount of vetting that we try very, very hard to do to make sure that we're taking care of you guys. But I would try to bill all those days the first time it's in the equipment console or when you close the load, and it should mark both of them billed at that time. Lisa, I hope that answers your question. And again, if you want some more specifics on the equipment console and how to move something into disputed or corp review, or what if it's this or what if it's that, we have the equipment console training that we offer, and we're very happy to do that. The better you guys are at the equipment console, the easier our job is, and the more timely we can get those bills out to your customers for you. Scott, let me take a look at your question here. If we get a toll violation for our private chassis, how should we be going about deducting drivers? Okay, so this is not necessarily my area of expertise because I deal with the tolls that are on the pool equipment. If you are getting tolls through your transponders, that would be over in the safety. Otherwise, you can, I believe, bill tolls on your freight bill and deduct them from your driver, or we can just deduct the driver in the equipment console. So if that's something you want to send me the email about offline, Scott, I'll be happy to take a look at it and make sure I get you in contact with the correct person.
Logan, just this is recorded. I don't have your agent code here, so if you can just let me know in the chat what your agent code is. I don't see your last name either. Just says Logan. So let me know, and we can send you over a copy. No problem.
Very mysterious. The mysterious Logan.
Well, appreciate everyone joining. Definitely some good info here. Always appreciate Wendy sharing some of her knowledge with us. So thank you, Wendy, for taking the time to go over this with us.
Ethel, you're very welcome. And I do believe Dan is going to attach that one pager that I was kind of looking at that you could see on my screen. He's going to attach that here in the meeting chat so you guys can print that out. And again, use that as reference and reach out anytime you have a question. You can, if it's chassis related, reach out to chassisteam@evansdelivery.com. You can email me directly at wendy.gee@evansdelivery.com. And then anything that is M&R Toll related, we have a group email over there called Mr. Toll Team, MR Toll Team, all one word, at evansdelivery.com. And that team will be happy to expedite anything that you have related to that side of the department as well.
Mr. Toll Team, that might be my favorite email address I've ever heard. Alrighty, folks. Thanks again for joining. Logan, I'll get that over to you. Thanks for dropping that agent code here. Appreciate it, everyone. And stay tuned for the February webinars that will be coming out next week. Thanks all.
Thanks,
Have
everyone.
a great day.